Welcome to Easy English, your go-to channel for improving your English and life.
Okay, let's unpack this. What if I told you that something incredibly small, these little things you do automatically every single day, holds the absolute key to, well, achieving your biggest goals and shaping your entire future?
Sounds almost too simple, right? But that's the powerful, maybe even slightly intimidating idea we're diving into today.
And we're doing this deep dive specifically based on source material you provided. It lays out this really compelling case for a simple phrase: change your habits, change your destiny.
Exactly. And our mission isn't just to, define that, it's to understand why it might be true. We're pulling insights from these sources to give you a really clear picture of how your daily actions are, like literally building the path ahead.
Yeah, totally. We're going to look at the fascinating science behind why habits are so powerful, not just as a concept, but physically, in your brain. We'll try and figure out which habits might be quietly holding you back, and crucially, which ones can become massive game changers.
And get practical strategies you can actually use. It's kind of like getting the blueprint for how those simple repetitive actions you take without even thinking, how they're constructing the life you end up living. We'll go from the basic building blocks all the way to the surprising ways they compound and shape who you become.
Okay, so let's get started with the fundamentals then. Based on this material, what are we even talking about when we say habits?
Well, based on what you shared, habits are essentially automatic behaviors, things you do with very little conscious thought.
Like grabbing your phone first thing.
Exactly. Or the route you take to work without thinking. They're often triggered by cues, in your environment or maybe internal states like feelings.
And destiny here. It's not fate, right? Not something fixed?
No, not at all. The sources define it much more dynamically. It's like the ultimate direction your life takes, the sum total of your outcomes, your achievements, relationships, health, that sort of thing.
Okay. And the central argument connecting these two?
It's that these repetitive, often unconscious behaviors are the primary architects of that destiny. If your habits line up with your goals, your aspirations, they're constantly nudging you towards them.
But if they don't?
And then we're pushing you away, sometimes without you even noticing it happening.
That's a really powerful counterpoint to how a lot of us think. We tend to focus on the big milestones, don't we? Like getting that huge promotion or losing 50 pounds.
Right. But the source material is pretty clear. Those are results. They're the output, the effect, not the cause.
So the habits are the cause?
The habits you've been running on autopilot, those are the cause. They're like the unseen architecture. They might seem tiny day to day, but they create momentum. And this is where the idea of compounding becomes so critical.
The compounding effect. Yeah, that's huge. It might be the single most important concept here.
Totally.
The sources give these simple examples, but they really hit home. Like reading just 10 pages a day. Doesn't sound like much, right?
Not really.
But over a year, that adds up to enough pages for more than 12 full books.
Wow. Or think about saving, say, $5 daily. Seems insignificant.
It's totally insignificant.
But multiply that by 365 days, and suddenly you've saved $9,825 in a year purely through consistency, not even counting interest.
Or walking 30 minutes a day, that's over 180 hours of movement annually.
It completely reframes productivity, doesn't it?
It really does. It's not about needing these massive bursts of effort all the time or constantly trying to do more.
No, it's about consistently doing the right small things. That consistency, that's the quiet engine building your future.
And the reason that consistency works so powerfully, that takes us right into the science, which these sources also dig into.
Yeah, habits aren't just, mental concepts. They are wired into our brains, physically.
That's fascinating. The material points to the basal ganglia, is that right? As a key area involved.
That's it, the basal ganglia. It's sort of the brain's headquarters for pattern recognition and, crucially, automating actions.
And physically, the brain actually changes.
It does. As you repeat a behavior, neural pathways form. And with more repetition, a fatty substance called myelin wraps around them. This process, myelination, it's like insulating a wire, making the signal much faster and more efficient.
Like building a superhighway in your brain for that specific action.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. It pushes the action into autopilot mode.
Which explains why something like brushing your teeth takes zero conscious effort now, after years and years.
Right. Your brain built that myelinated superhighway ages ago. And research actually shows brain activity shifting. It moves from the conscious prefrontal cortex, where you make deliberate choices, down to that automatic basal ganglia as a habit solidifies.
Because the brain wants to save energy.
Precisely. It loves efficiency, so it puts things on autopilot whenever it can.
Okay, and this is where the famous habit loop comes in, right? Detailed in sources like Charles Duhigg's work. It explains how this automation happens.
Yep, the habit loop.
Yeah.
Your roadmap, essentially. 3 key parts.
First, you've got the cue, the trigger.
Right. Could be internal, like an emotion, boredom, stress, whatever. Or external, a place, a time, seeing something.
Then comes the routine. That's the behavior itself, the action you take. And finally, the reward. The benefit your brain gets from that routine.
Could be temporary relief, a dopamine hit, achieving some small outcome. Anything the brain finds satisfying.
The sources give that classic example. You feel stressed. That's the cue.
You reach for a sugary snack, the routine.
And you get that temporary relief and sugar satisfaction, the reward.
And your brain logs that sequence. Stress plus snack equals feel better. Boom.
Yeah.
It starts automating it.
So the truly powerful insight here, the sort of aha moment the source material gives us, is that because we understand this loop,
We can hijack it.
exactly, we can strategically disrupt it to change the behavior. You keep the cue, you keep the desired reward, but you swap out the routine in the middle.
Precisely. Think about that afternoon slump or boredom being the cue. The old routine might be like mindlessly scrolling social media.
Guilty for that quick hit of novelty, right? The reward.
Yeah. So what if you replace that routine, maybe with a 10-minute walk or reading a chapter of a book?
You still get a break, a shift in state.
Right. You get a different kind of reward, maybe refreshment or learning something new. And crucially, you're building a new pathway.
And the incredible news, the really hopeful part, is that your brain is actually designed for this kind of change, this thing called neuroplasticity.
Yes. Neuroplasticity. It means your brain can literally reorganize itself. It can form new neural connections and weaken old ones at any age. It's not fixed.
So when you consistently practice a new habit,
You're reinforcing that new pathway, making it stronger, more myelinated.
and when you stop reinforcing an old one,
It literally starts to wither. The connection gets weaker. You are actively, physically reshaping your brain. And by doing that, you are reshaping your future.
okay, so understanding the science explains the how, but how does consistently repeating these actions, even tiny ones, fundamentally change the trajectory of your future?
It goes right back to that core principle. Destiny isn't some predetermined fate. It's the accumulated result of your daily actions. The compound effect, which the sources talk about a lot, it's always working.
Constantly. Like that $5 a day saving example, that's compounding positively.
Right. But eating just, say, 100 extra calories a day, that compounds too, potentially leading to, 10 pounds of weight gain in a year if nothing else changes.
Wow. It's simple math, really, but it applies just as powerfully whether you're building your dreams or, well, undermining them.
Absolutely. Every single time you repeat a behavior, you are essentially casting a vote for the type of person you are becoming and the future you're building.
And this leads to what might be the most transformative idea in the material, identity-based habit change.
Yes. This is where it gets really interesting. It flips the script. It's not just about doing a habit, it's about who you become by doing it.
Okay, explain that a bit more. How does the source material differentiate between focusing on a goal versus focusing on identity?
Well, the traditional approach is often, I want to achieve X goal, so I need to do Y habit. Right?
Yeah, seems logical.
The identity-based approach flips it. It asks, what kind of person achieves X goal? And then the focus becomes, I want to be that kind of person, so I will do Y habit because that's what that kind of person does.
So instead of just saying, I want to write a book,
You aim to become someone who writes daily instead of I want to lose weight.
you aim to become someone who values healthy living. Is that it?
Exactly. You start by deciding who you want to be. Then your actions become the proof of that identity and the results. They just sort of follow as a byproduct of being that person.
So the sequence is decide who to be, act like that person, get the results naturally.
You got it. And this works because identity is incredibly sticky, you know? It's much easier to stick with habits when they feel aligned with how you see yourself. Every small action reinforces that desired identity.
I see. It's not just about doing the thing. It's embodying the person who does the thing.
Yeah.
That feels, much more sustainable.
It really does. And this ties into the idea of keystone habits, or the ripple effect. The sources highlight how one small positive habit can trigger this cascade of other positive changes,
Like starting to exercise, that often makes you want to eat better,
which improves your sleep,
which boosts your energy and focus,
making you more productive.
and maybe builds confidence.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It all connects. Or The material mentions journaling. That can bring emotional clarity,
Which might lead to better decisions.
which improves relationships. One stone dropped in the pond creates many ripples.
The challenge, though, as the sources point out, is that building these destiny-shaping habits often requires delayed gratification.
Oh, definitely. You have to choose the beneficial action now, even if it's uncomfortable, for a reward that comes later. And that's tough in our world of instant everything.
It really is.
But changing habits, fundamentally, it's also a mindset shift, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a conscious choice, prioritizing growth over comfort, purpose over convenience, actively choosing who you're becoming, one action at a time.
It becomes a way of life, not just a temporary fix.
Exactly.
Okay, so we get the power and the science of good habits. But what about the flip side? The ones holding us back, the sources spend time on those too, right?
They do. And it's crucial. We need to recognize the common habits that quietly sabotage our potential. They don't always shout, they just slowly drain energy, focus, health, happiness, like anchors.
Procrastination comes up first.
Yeah.
The material calls it the silent dream killer.
That hits home.
Yeah, that habit of putting off important stuff for easier things, you get that short-term relief, but long-term. Stress, missed opportunities, lost confidence.
And the source captures it perfectly. Procrastination essentially programs your brain to believe that avoiding discomfort is more important than growth.
Wow, how do you break that?
The material suggests simple tactics, the 2-minute rule, just start for 2 minutes, breaking big tasks into tiny, tiny pieces, removing distractions, obviously, and celebrating just starting, not only finishing.
Okay, then there's negative self-talk. This sounds insidious, like programming failure.
It really is. Those phrases we repeat in our heads, I'm not good enough, I always mess up, I'll never change, they become self-fulfilling prophecies.
How so?
Because they shape our core beliefs about ourselves, and our beliefs dictate our actions or lack thereof. If you genuinely believe you're incapable, you won't even try the positive habits we talked about.
So what's the counter?
Affirmations can help. Consciously challenging those limiting beliefs when they pop up. Surrounding yourself with positive people. Seeking constructive feedback from people who actually see your potential.
Makes sense. Poor health choices are also listed as common saboteurs.
Yeah, these habits steal your vital resources, energy and time. Staying up late scrolling, relying on processed foods, skipping exercise, maybe too much caffeine or alcohol.
They don't just affect your body, do they?
Not at all. They directly impact your mental clarity, your motivation, your ability to handle stress, your resilience. All of it degrades over time.
And the fix isn't a massive overhaul overnight.
No, the material emphasizes small, consistent steps again. Aim for 7-9 hours of sleep. Hydrate first thing in the morning. Replace just one unhealthy meal or snack with something better. Squeeze in just 15 minutes of movement. Consistency beats intensity here.
Got it. And finally, comparison, especially with social media these days.
Ugh, yes, the comparison trap. This habit just breeds insecurity, doesn't it? It creates this illusion that everyone else has it figured out, that you're somehow behind.
And that can paralyze you?
Totally. It paralyzes you with self-judgment, wastes mental energy, and shifts your focus from your own progress to some impossible standard of perfection.
How do you fight that one?
Limit the input, less social media scrolling, deliberately focus on your journey, your benchmarks, maybe keep a progress journal, and actively practice gratitude for what you do have and how far you've come.
Okay. So with all these sabotaging habits, the absolute first step, the non-negotiable.
Awareness. You absolutely cannot change what you don't realize you're doing. You have to catch yourself in the act first.
Right. Now, flipping back to the positive side, what does the source material highlight as the real high-impact habits? The ones that can transform multiple areas of life?
Daily exercise comes up again big time. And not just for the physical stuff. It's identified as a true keystone habit.
Meaning it unlocks other good habits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Beyond boosting mood and cutting stress, endorphins, the sources talk about how it boosts BDNF.
BDNF.
Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of it like Miracle Grow for your brain cells. It helps them grow, connect, survive, which directly impacts cognitive function, learning, memory.
Wow. Okay, so exercise makes you smarter?
In a way, yeah. Plus, it builds discipline, improves sleep, boosts metabolism, strengthens your immune system. The list goes on.
How to make it stick?
Start ridiculously small, even 10-15 minutes. Find something you actually enjoy. Doesn't have to be running marathons. Schedule it like any important appointment and track it, at least initially, to build that consistency muscle.
Okay. What else? Mindfulness and journaling.
Yes. presented as absolutely essential habits for finding clarity and emotional control in our noisy, chaotic world. Mindfulness, even just a few minutes, helps reduce anxiety, improves focus, makes you more aware of your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
And journaling.
It's like a mental decluttering tool, powerful for processing thoughts, figuring out what you really want, spotting those recurring patterns in your thinking or behavior.
How to start simply.
The sources suggest just 5 minutes of quiet meditation or using simple journaling prompts. What am I grateful for today? What did I learn? Even just a brain dump before bed to get racing thoughts out of your head.
Good ones. Reading and lifelong learning is another big one highlighted.
Absolutely. It's framed as a habit shared by incredibly successful people. The sources mention Warren Buffett, Oprah, people who are constantly feeding their minds.
It makes sense. It expands your knowledge, your vocabulary.
Your empathy, creativity, problem-solving skills. It keeps you curious and motivated.
How to build that habit.
Keep a book nearby, always visible. Set a tiny goal, 10 pages, 15 minutes a day. Use audiobooks during commutes or chores. And read widely different subjects, different perspectives.
Love it. And the last big one seems to be morning rituals.
Yeah, the idea of winning the day before it really starts. Creating intentional space for clarity, energy, and setting your direction before the world starts making demands on you.
Does it have to be hours long?
Not at all. Even 20-30 focused minutes can make a huge difference. The source's example routine includes things like hydrating immediately, some light stretching or movement, a few minutes of mindfulness or prayer, quickly reviewing your goals for the day, maybe reading or journaling briefly.
Tailored to you, basically.
Exactly. Pick elements that resonate and serve you.
So the key thread running through implementing all these high-impact habits based on everything we've discussed.
Start small. Choose one that feels most needed right now. Focus relentlessly on consistency before you even think about adding another. It's that compounding effect again. Build the foundation first.
Seeing these principles play out in real lives, like the examples in the sources, really helps drive it home, doesn't it?
It does. Makes it less abstract.
Like Elon Musk. The sources mention his reported use of time blocking, breaking his day into tiny slots, and his intense focus. It really illustrates structuring your time, building efficiency as a system.
Yeah, extreme prioritization. And then there's Oprah Winfrey. Her success is attributed in part to habits like deep self-reflection, daily gratitude practice, consistent reading.
Apparently, she's kept journals for decades.
Exactly. Those practices build emotional resilience, ground you, and expand your perspective over the long haul.
And James Clear, the author whose work, like Atomic Habits, aligns so closely with this material. So he's like a walking example, right?
Totally. His whole platform is built on demonstrating the power of small habits, compounding, focusing on identity, building systems, designing your environment, all the stuff we're talking about.
So the takeaway isn't that these people just have superhuman willpower.
Not at all. It's that they built powerful systems for themselves, and those systems are powered by consistent habits.
And the sources point to practical tools that can help you, the listener, build those systems too, like habit tracking.
Yeah, using apps. The sources mention things like Habitica, Streaks, or even just a simple spreadsheet or notebook.
Yeah.
Seeing your streak, visualizing consistency can be really motivating for some people.
And the power of accountability partners.
Yeah, huge. Just knowing someone else is going to ask you about it makes you more likely to follow through. The sources suggest finding someone who's also growth-oriented, setting up regular check-ins, celebrating the wins together, but also learning from the inevitable setbacks.
And maybe tracking mindset shifts too, not just actions.
That's a great point. How are you feeling about the process?
Okay, now, as we start to wrap this up, the source material anticipates some common questions that might be swirling for you right now listening to all this.
Like the big one. Can I really change my life just by changing my habits? Seems almost too simple.
And the answer from the sources
is a resounding yes. Because your life is the sum of your repeated actions. Small, consistent changes absolutely compound into massive outcomes over time. It's not magic, it's math.
Okay. What about how long does it actually take to form a new habit? People love a timeline.
Right. The material mentions that often cited average, around 66 days. But it strongly emphasizes that it varies wildly. Depends on the habit's complexity, your environment, your personality, and most importantly, your consistency.
So the specific number isn't the point?
Not really. Persistence is the point. Don't get hung up on the number.
And what if you stumble? Miss the day, fall off the wagon completely?
The source is clear. Failure isn't the opposite of success here. It's part of the process. It's data. The goal isn't perfection, which is impossible anyway. It's persistence.
Don't let one slip up become two.
Exactly. Just get back on track the very next day or the next opportunity. Avoid that all-or-nothing thinking that makes one missed day feel like total failure.
Good advice. What about motivation? Do I need to feel super motivated to start?
Not necessarily according to the material. Sometimes you just have to start with discipline, with structure. Motivation often follows action rather than preceding it. Build the system first. The feeling might catch up later. Don't wait for inspiration that might never come.
Okay. And for someone feeling overwhelmed, thinking, which habit should I even start with?
The advice is practical. Start with one habit that seems like it would solve your biggest current pain point. If you lack energy, maybe focus on sleep first, or a tiny exercise habit.
If you lack focus.
Maybe try 5 minutes of journaling or planning your day the night before. Lack confidence. Maybe start a small learning habit or daily affirmations. Address the biggest bottleneck first.
Makes sense. And finally, that question that might linger, is it ever too late to change?
And the answer from the sources, grounded in everything we've discussed about neuroplasticity, is a definite, emphatic never.
Your brain can form new connections, new pathways at any age.
Absolutely. Whether you're 18 or 80, building new habits can reshape your brain and, therefore, your future. It's never too late to start building a better destiny.
So, ultimately, the core message we've unpacked today from these sources is powerful. Your destiny isn't some distant, fixed point out there.
No, it's being written right now, day by day, in the small choices you make, the actions you repeat. It's being built by the systems you put in place.
And those systems are powered by your habits.
Every single day offers you an opportunity, really, to cast a vote for the future version of yourself through the habits you choose to practice and reinforce.
And yeah, there will be challenges. There will be days you don't feel like it. But as the sources keep emphasizing, persistence over perfection is the name of the game.
And the material leaves us with a really potent final thought, something to really chew on. You don't rise to the level of your goals.
You fall to the level of your systems.
And systems are built from habits.
Wow. Just let that sink in for a moment. Think about that. What systems are you currently running on autopilot?
And based on everything we've unpacked today from these sources, what's maybe one small habit you could start with, maybe even today, that would cast a powerful vote for the person you want to become and the future you truly desire?
Your future self is waiting. It's being built right now.